Welcome to Turrican!
With Turrican being a huge success, the guys at Rainbow Arts and Factor 5 got started on the next installment in the series, Turrican II: The Final Fight, which is a pretty strange title considering that there would be more games in the series. They even announced in the end credits that they were making Super Turrican for the Super Nintendo, but I'm getting ahead of myself. When it was shown at a computer demo show in Cologne, Germany, there were 900 demo discs of the game available. The demo only contained half of the first level, as it ended after you beat the first boss. Despite it being short, the demo ended up amazing people, and the show became one big fight with everyone trying to get a floppy disk. It was to the point where 2 people were even injured trying to get one. After the game was released, it received unanimous praise, and it has a reputation for being one of the best games on the home computers of the time. In particular, the Amiga, Atari ST, and Commodore 64. To this day, the game is in extreme high demand.
That didn't stop me! Yes, I have Turrican II. I got it for $10! So let's get into it.
Now, looking back upon the original Turrican, while it is a great game in my mind, it does have its issues. Now, does Turrican 2 fix those issues? Does it expand upon the gameplay from the original, and is it a step forward? Well, not only is it a step forward, and not only does it fix the problems from the original, but as a game on its own, it does so much more than even the most highly regarded games in the gaming community. In short, I feel that this is not only an incredible sequel, it's one of the best games I have ever played. Now let me give you some background information about me as a gamer. I am not one to make such extreme claims. When most gamers are talking about how a certain game is the best ever, I either laugh or get insanely irritated. I feel it is a childish, ignorant, uneducated, and flat-out dumb argument. Even when someone is claiming that something is one of the best, I still raise an eyebrow more often than not, as I feel even that argument is often misused and not supported sufficiently. So what makes Turrican 2 different? Well, I have studied game design during my spare time since I was in elementary school. Evaluating level design and the execution of concepts are skills in which I have acquired at a young age and have continued to develop. Even to the point where I can look upon games that are believed to be flawless and managed to point out some major design problems that severely damage the experience as a whole. Of course, I don't know everything, and never will. However, the more I learn about game design, the more impressive this game becomes. In addition, I associate the word masterpiece with fine art. So when holding games in this light, I evaluate a game very similarly to I would a painting, a piece of literature, or a film. Essentially, every element in the game has to come together and achieve something artistic, and that's exactly what Turrican 2 does. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start from the beginning and evaluate the game in all of its aspects in order to support the claim I made earlier. What's interesting is that this game actually starts up with a rather long cutscene explaining the narrative. In the year 3025, the members of the United Freedom Forces are aboard their star cruiser, the Avalon 1, flying towards an interdimensional barrier. The UFF's current mission is to transcend the borders of their own reality and explore whatever reality lies ahead of them. According to one of the crewmates, similar missions have been conducted in the past, but nothing has been heard of the crew since. A rookie named Bren McGuire dismisses it as mere gossip and states that their technology is advanced enough to take on whatever lies ahead of them. Shortly after the briefing, an unidentified craft appears out of nowhere and attacks the Avalon 1. During the battle, the Avalon 1's defenses are completely destroyed, and the enemy forces board their ship, resulting in a huge massacre taking place. We learn that they are led by a cyborg known as the Machine. The Machine surveys the damage and takes note that everyone aboard the ship has been killed. However, that's what one man wanted him to think. Bren McGuire pretended to be dead while the Machine was aboard the ship. After the Machine leaves, Bren McGuire heads to the weapons storage room where he finds the Turrican assault suits, built from the most advanced technology, and meant for the elite soldiers of the United Freedom Forces. Bren suits up and vows to avenge his fallen comrades. He, a lone soldier, teleports himself to the planet of Landarin, where the Machine's military, factory, and base are located, and plans to destroy them all as an act of revenge. This is the story that future games in the series would expand off of, with Bren McGuire becoming the series' protagonist and the Machine becoming the series' antagonist. If you ask someone about the storyline in the Turrican series as a whole, this is the one that you're most likely to hear because it has an impact on all of the games after this. What's great about this plot is that unlike most games at the time, or even considerably later, Bren himself actually has a reason to be doing all of this, and that motive is the heart of the game's story. You can actually identify and sympathize with the character's pain. Therefore, you want to see him get through everything okay, and the only way to do that is to play the game. This does what a story in a game should do. It sets the mood, it gives your action to the game actual substance, and it makes you want to progress in the game. The graphics are incredibly vibrant. Even on a visual level, this is a step up from the original. The game is also far more lighthearted than its predecessor on terms of aesthetic, and they take full advantage of this. There is so much attention to detail. Even environments like the desert look incredibly lively in this game. In every environment, there's a lot going on in the background and foreground. Not enough to be overstimulating, but enough to really suck you into the game's world even further. So, how is the music in this game? Remember when I talked about the longer and more complex songs in the original Turrican and how they are far more intelligently composed than a lot of other video game music? Every song in this game is like that, and a vast majority of them are even more intelligently composed than the songs from the first. Looking at the soundtrack as a whole on a composition level, this is the best soundtrack I have ever heard in a game. Of course, I have praised Chris Hulsbeck's work in the past, as many others have. This game's soundtrack, to this day, is known for being his best work, and when people talk about what a musical genius that he is, this is usually what they're thinking about. Okay, so what does make the music so incredible? First off, there aren't just one or two or even three sequences in each song like you hear in most other video game music of the time. There are a great number of sequences in each song. Plus, each song shifts through several different moods, and they all feel like complete compositions, especially in comparison to most other games of the time. In addition, sometimes when you think the song you're listening to is about to end and start from the beginning, the song is then thrown into a completely different direction, often resulting in your mind being blown. These blow your mind sequences are absolutely spectacular and are often one of the key highlights of their respective song. Since I've spent my time talking about how complex these songs are, you might be thinking that all of the songs are slow-paced snore fests. Well, listen to Traps. yeah, you got plenty of fast-paced songs of awesomeness. You also got plenty of light-hearted songs like The Desert Rocks, and not to mention some pretty ominous ones like Undirectional Flight. However, what's shocking is how many heartfelt and emotional songs there are. I mean it, some of these songs are absolutely beautiful. What's even better about all of these songs is how well they tie in with the game. It almost becomes impossible to separate the music from the stages themselves because they just go together so perfectly. The emotions these songs convey is directly linked to the emotions the player is feeling. They set the mood perfectly, and I mean it. There are times where the music fits in so well, it's absolutely awe-inspiring. Not to mention, none of the songs are repeated, even during boss fights. Every song is memorable. The very first time I heard these songs, they were permanently engraved in my memory. I have never forgotten a single one. One of the songs that stands out the most to me is the song from Stage 4-1, The Wall, and no, it has nothing to do with the Pink Floyd song. This right here is my favorite song from any video game. Every stage has its own theme, sometimes even more than that, and each boss has its own theme. This really helps the soundtrack achieve the very emotional connection that I mentioned earlier. So now we've got the presentation out of the way. Let's look at the gameplay. Now I already praised the original Turrican's balance of platforming, shooting, and exploration. Here, those three elements are expanded even further. The platforming and exploration in particular stick out, and the shooting helps maintain the game's fast pace. As far as weapons go, you have the spread shot from the first game, but now the laser can be upgraded and is a real force to be reckoned with. In addition, there's the bounce weapon, which can also be upgraded. The spread shot is good for when you have to deal with enemies with varying altitudes like the flies in the first world. The laser is good for blasting your way through hordes of enemies at the same altitude, and the bounce is good for claustrophobic environments. The surround beam controls a bit smoother in this game, and Bren's animation when using it is astounding. Unlike the original, you can use the gyroscope as much as you want, and the game takes full advantage of that. Though you can't use your regular weapons when in this mode like you could in the first game. Instead, you drop landmines, which are much more effective than they were in the original. At the same time, it makes its source of inspiration even more obvious than it already was. The power lines work the same way they did in the first game, and the grenades are gone. However, once per life or per level, you have this insane mode that sends you flying all over the screen, releasing all of your weapons at once, which really comes in handy for the boss fights. So overall, the weapon system has been refined and all of the weapons work really well with the environments they're given. There is an even bigger focus on platforming than there was in the original. The level design is practically centered on your ability to jump, which is good because the jump controls are even better than they were in the first. These are the best jump controls I have ever seen in a video game. I swear you have complete control over this thing, which may be more than it sounds. The level design takes full advantage of this. The jumps start off nice and simple, but as you progress they get harder. They don't pull a Jimmy Neutron Boy genius and give you jumps that you legitimately can't jump to without some strange trick or glitch, but they do make it more challenging. However, the game does a really good job of training you to make these jumps. While the developers generally expect more from you as you progress, they never go overboard with it. The platforming in this game can be difficult, but it is always fair as the platforms you need to jump to are always within reach. What makes it difficult are the situations you are put in. You really have to stop and think about how you're going to approach the situations you're in, and it often involves using the environments to your advantage. The levels in this game are even bigger than the ones in the original. I've spent around 10 minutes exploring the first level alone. I mean, look at it, it's just huge! There are so many separate paths, dead ends, detours, and secrets in these levels, it's just incredible. It doesn't even feel like a series of paths, but instead a wide open world. In addition, the level design communicates to you very well where you need to go. Even in the last levels where your sense of direction isn't as strong as it was before, if you're paying attention to your surroundings, you should be able to tell which paths are detours and which path is the main path that will lead you to the end. Heck, you're not even required to beat all of the bosses. Yeah, some of the bosses are either hidden or can just be avoided altogether. The exploration is amazingly well done, and it really makes you feel like this is a big world you're exploring and progressing through. The variety is unbelievable. Each stage has its own identity and feels directly connected to the stage preceding it in some fashion. The stage progression is very logical. I know that was one of my points of praise of the original Turrican, but it applies even more so here. It also helps that it feels more like you're being thrown from one crazy scenario to the next. In addition, you do a lot more in this game than you do in the first. You'll be running through deserts, jumping over falling structures, swimming through a flooded section of a cavern, timing your jumps accordingly with the varying speed of the wind in order to achieve a higher jump, which will get you to the top. And of course, the thing that blew everybody's mind, flying in a spaceship. For the entirety of World 3, the game completely changes genre. One of the things that makes this so awesome is the timing of it. There's a point in most games where everything comes together and it all starts to feel formulaic. Turrican II does this right when the game starts to feel this way. Okay, I know what to expect now. The game is going to be consisted of large stages focusing on platforming, exploration, and projectile combat with a few platforming gimmicks thrown in on each stage, and what the hell? Another big factor to take into consideration was that it was very unexpected. This wasn't a popular approach in platform games yet. After this game, though, things changed. This was considered revolutionary and became a very popular gimmick in European platform games, which in turn reported to home consoles, where they had more of an audience and therefore spread even more. To this day, platform games continue to do this. So, what makes Turrican 2's application of it so special to this day, if so many others have done it since? I can also answer that. You see, the level design, the music, and even the fact that this is in the middle as opposed to the second stage or something, it all comes together here. The game as a whole treats this section of the game as a breath of fresh air. In addition, all three spaceship stages are very different from each other, but like every other stage in the game, they all feel connected. Even after the spaceship sections, the variety is still very strong. Stage 4-1 is one of my favorite levels in a video game and is really interesting if you're into game design. The level starts by introducing you to two different kinds of fake walls, ones you can break and ones you could walk right through. The entire stage is filled with cleverly hidden paths utilizing said fake walls, and it encourages you to be skeptical of your surroundings. In addition, the stage is friggin' huge. Every time I play the stage, I seem to find something new, and I have played it a lot. After that, you fight your way through the Walker Factory, an alien lair, ripped straight out of Aliens, like every other sci-fi game of the time, and finally, jumping on self-destructing elevators to get to the top of the machine's tower. Again, even with all this variety, it all connects and flows shockingly well. It really does feel like you're progressing through one big world with a lot in it. So in conclusion, this game is a masterpiece. Every element in this game contributes to the same achievement, the sensation of exploring a huge world. The graphics, the story, the music, the weapons, the platforming, the exploration, and the variety, it all comes together and accomplishes this. Turrican 2 is an insanely fun, rewarding, and well-designed platforming adventure that I can't recommend playing enough. Play this game if you haven't already. And if you've played it already but haven't in a while, play it again. It seriously is that good. You guys can have your Ocarina of Time. You can have your Star Fox 64. For the past several years, I have looked among the popular and obscure in search for amazing games. And throughout my search, I have found very little that even compares to this. So in between my search sessions, I'm going to be playing this, while more closed-minded individuals miss out on a truly remarkable experience. Thank you Manfred Trends and Rainbow Arts. Thank you Factor 5. Thank you Chris Wilsbeck. Thank you whoever worked on this wonderful game.
Join me in part 3 where I'll cover the other home computer versions of Turrican 1 and 2, and also their ports to the home consoles. Oh crap.